What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece Ayers with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. A much-anticipated lunch between Taiwan's main opposition parties and the cabinet has failed to break a deadlock on next year's budget. Rick Glowett reports on Taiwan's very fractious politics.
A media scrum outside a rare cross-party lunch, as Taiwan's government and opposition-controlled legislature look to overcome a budget stalemate. Taiwan's deep political divisions are coming to a head. The legislature has blocked the government's 2025 budget for weeks. Many hoped that this closed-door lunch could bridge the divide and approve funds before the end of the year.
我刚看你缓慢地走进来，步态蹒跚的样子。刚刚中午的朝野和解饭吃的结果是在您的预料当中吗？
我刚刚没有步履蹒跚呢，我还是非常的轻快地走进来了。这个是一个营养午餐。
The opposition, the Taiwan's People Party or the TPP and the Kuomintang or the KMT say that the government's budget does not add up and that there isn't enough money allocated for bills passed earlier this year.
蛮令人遗憾的到目前为止没有听到什么具体的方案。那接下来，我觉得在行政立法之间，事情该怎么解决，我们就怎么解决。
我没有看到行政院 所带来的任何的方案再次回到这个当时三个会期所有每一次的协商的一个过程，重新再来，我们非常的遗憾表示，行政院还没有学习要好好尊重全国的民意。
The ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, which won a historic third presidential term in office this year but lost control of the legislature, accuses the opposition of playing party politics.
我们希望韩院长尽速召集朝野协商，换局只是一个和解换局，大家找好的方向去讨论，不是今天会解决的，这是一个好的开始。
Behind all this, deep political divisions, a party in power that wants to keep neighbouring China at arm's lengths, and an opposition that favours closer ties across the Taiwan Strait.
So I think between the major political camps in Taiwan, there's no ground for consensus because they view themselves as fundamentally at odds based on their views on cross-strait relations, and that then seeps into domestic politics. And with regards to the current contention, I think what is interesting is that A, there's still no room for negotiation, but also B, it's not the first time this has happened either in Taiwanese history.
A hostile legislature like this has spelled disaster in the past, crippling government plans for everything from housing to defence. President Lai Ching-te has promised to keep China at bay with increased military spending, including big-ticket items like developing domestically produced submarines. That agenda now at risk as party politics continue to disrupt this country. Karma Xu and Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus.
Prosecutors have questioned two Taiwan People's Party officials over the misreporting of campaign funds. Secretary-General Zhou Yushu and party spokesperson Dai Yuwen reported to the Taipei District Prosecutor's Office to explain how political contributions were handled. The opposition party, also known by its initials TPP, is the smallest of Taiwan's three main political camps. It already faces serious legal woes, with its founder Ko Wen-je in detention for alleged corruption during his time as Taipei mayor. However, the party has criticized the judicial system for creating an atmosphere of fear and has vowed to fight on. The rural southeast is struggling to rebuild a week after Typhoon Krathon wrecked homes, fields and infrastructure. Local people say the central government will need to step in if the region is to recover. John Van Trieste has this report.
For Ms. Hong, Typhoon Krathon is a nightmare that won't end. The storm dumped 200 centimeters of rain on this rural part of the southeast last week, burying the fields and orchards. On her ruined farm, the amount of cleanup work alone has left her exhausted.
现在只有修那边而已啊，其他都没有啊。按我们自己整理家里人，什么都要自己来啊。
And agricultural losses are just one part of the disaster the area's been through. Raging floodwaters burst embankments and swept whole bridges away. With so much infrastructure lost, rebuilding the lives of local farmers and others will take a painfully long time. And it will take a lot of money. Just repairing embankments could take close to $16 million US. And that's money local people say they just don't have. On Friday, officials inspected damage and pledged help. And a lawmaker representing the area is even talking about using military muscle to help rebuild. Local people feel that whatever help comes needs to come quickly. As much of Taiwan moves on from last week's storm, in this part of the country, the disaster is far from over. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The train driver in a deadly 2018 derailment has been ordered to pay half of an injured passenger's total compensation. 18 people died and over 100 were injured when the train derailed in Yilan County after taking a curve at excessive speed. An investigation ruled that the driver's negligence caused the accident. He has been ordered to pay over $90,000 US as compensation to a passenger who was seriously injured in the crash. Taiwan's government is planning to launch a digital wallet for identity cards next year. The project by the Digital Ministry aims to help citizens and residents store their IDs in a mobile app. They could then be easily accessed wherever a user takes their mobile phone. Some groups have raised concerns about data security and costs. Facilities such as hospitals will have to upgrade their equipment to accept digital IDs. The ministry says it wants to roll out the app by the end of 2025. Uninsured Russian oil tankers are secretly transporting millions of tons of crude oil around the globe, according to a report by the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. Russia reportedly assembled the fleet of so-called shadow tankers to circumvent sanctions. The group of 7 nations, including the US and the biggest EU economies, introduced a $60 US price cap per barrel of Russian oil as punishment for Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Environmental groups are warning that it's only a matter of time before one of the uninsured vessels is involved in a catastrophic incident, leaving nearby countries footing the cleanup bill. For more on Russia's fleet of shadow tankers, I spoke to Petros Katanas, energy analyst at the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air and author of the report.
You mentioned in your report that these Russian shadow tankers are a global issue. What's the true scale of this problem?
After the full-scale invasion and the EU embargo on Russian crude oil, Russia had to basically send its all crude oil to Asian countries. It's 96% of Russian crude oil now. It goes to Asian countries, and namely to China and India. Basically, Russia gives them a huge discount. So I'm making an assumption that yes, they know that basically they are circumventing sanctions.
Realistically, what can the international community do to police these tankers?
There is a huge need in monitoring, first of all, because many institutions in the US, in the UK, and the EU, they do not have enough manpower to monitor. And the second thing is, of course, enforcement. So, and mandating basically proof of adequate P&I insurance and strictly enforcing the requirement would probably deter shadow tankers operating in sensitive coastal regions and geographical bottlenecks. So I would say that this could effectively close off the most direct and cost-effective routes for these vessels, making shadow fleet operations economically unviable.
Your report mentions that some of these tankers are in quite bad shape. If some of them were involved in incidents, what kind of impact might they have on the environment?
And having in mind that Asian countries are the biggest buyers, it is a huge ecological issue and threat to these countries. Might affect tourism sector. It might affect, of course, fishery, which is very important, I would say, for East Asia, and of course the long-term damage to basically fauna and flora. So it's not only, I would say, not only oil spill cause, but as well, it's probably, I would say, social cause that the societies of countries might pay for that in the long term.
That was Petrus Katinas from the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. Vietnamese people make up one of Taiwan's largest immigrant communities, in part fueled by transnational marriages. But children from these marriages are often sent back to Vietnam to be raised by grandparents. A team of professors and volunteers from a Taiwan university has been teaching Mandarin to a group of these children in southern Vietnam, with the hope that it will give them the option to return to Taiwan. Wesley Lewis has more.
我是王怡静老师，所以你们要叫我静老师。
Dressed in a traditional aozai, college student Wang Yijing has been teaching Mandarin to a group of Taiwan-born children who now live in Vietnam. The goal of this class? To help the kids reconnect with Taiwan.
我希望透过这个课程，可以让他们回到台湾之前，至少有一个心理准备。
In the past few decades, many Vietnamese women have married Taiwanese men and moved away from home in search of a better life. But marital and financial problems have forced some mothers to send their children back to be raised by their families. This phenomenon is especially prevalent in Dun Loc Island in southern Vietnam's Mekong Delta. A new pilot program by Taiwan's National Zhengzhi University has been offering free Chinese language classes for these children to help give them the option to go back to Taiwan in the future.
我们办这个华语班，其实最大的目的也是希望协助到这一些，就是未来要回到台湾就学的这些学生，希望他们能够在语言上可以有一个基础。 然后在文化上的冲击不会那么大。
For Wang, this program's mission is personal. Her own mom is from Dun Loc Island. When she was a child, she was sent to live with her grandparents here after her parents' divorce. And when she returned to Taiwan at 12 years old, she says she felt like a fish out of water.
就是我完全没有在有心理建设之下，我不会讲中文，我也听不懂别人说什么，我也看不懂书上写了什么东西。
Wang says she also struggled to accept her multicultural identity.
我那时候我也发现我自己不太敢说我是越南人，对，因为很多人都会觉得说越南就是比较落后的国家，然后很多越南的妈妈。 他们就宁愿让他们的孩子就是学习中文就好了，但导致他们去学校的时候，他们就不敢说自己的妈妈是越南人，他们觉得会有一些丢脸。
Now back in Vietnam, she's surrounded by some familiar tastes and smells from her childhood. She's come to embrace both her native cultures and sees this teaching role as an opportunity to give back to her communities.
所以我也想要成为一位可以教越南人中文，或者是教台湾人越南语。我觉得这就是我可以帮助更多的人。我想要成为语言之间的桥梁。
Wang hopes that she can be part of helping these kids on Dun Loc Island overcome language barriers and identity crises by serving as a link between two cultures, one classroom at a time. Joseph Wu and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, check out scenes from a new stage musical in New York City, based off the hugely popular Japanese manga Attack on Titan. I'm Reece Ayers. Take care and have a great weekend.